Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Sunday Messages. This is your host, Reverend Sydney Finn. What I will tell you before we get started, this is one of those conversations that I know a lot of people need to hear. If this resonates with you and you know someone this is going to apply to, please send it to them. Not only would I appreciate it, they're definitely going to appreciate it. This is you. I can almost guarantee if you're a fan of my work, you will enjoy this conversation because I just know that this is a very hot topic and it's been very active. It's one of those things that people get really caught up around in terms of our human conditioning versus the energetic reality of how things come to be. Okay, so this is going to be an excellent conversation for all of us to have, and I'm so excited that you're here. Now, I have heard 5 or 6 different people in my orbit, just in passing, not people who are close to me, but just in passing, bring up the idea of provisions. And we all know the phrase, there will be provisions for you. Okay, the idea of God will provide around your desire. Now, here's how it energetically comes to be, or here's more of the mechanical side of this. You have a desire. There's a new preference that you've identified. There is something that you now want, whether it's something new and fresh, or it's simply a refinement of something that already exists. That's universal expansion. So now, as soon as you identify that, God, universe, your soul, your inner being is now holding the line where you've expanded to. Okay? In the early stages of you identifying this desire for yourself, if it seems larger than what can materialize tomorrow, if it's a bigger dream, right? So there's a difference between identifying that you want a coffee or a bouquet of flowers. The potential and your buy-in to that possibility being manifested today is there's almost no resistance. I think each and every one of you could get behind the idea of flowers or coffee or a green juice or something like that. When it's something that has more moving parts, that's a larger scale, that perhaps you've been thinking about for a long time, there's more resistance because there's more thought forms around that unfolding. Theoretically, energetically, these things can pop overnight. But most of us have been thinking about them too long, and there's not congruency between our beliefs and that potentiality in order for that to be manifested overnight. So there's a bit more work to do, not because the universe is slow or the universe can't deliver, but because we are in the way, ultimately, of that thing happening as fast as we could allow it to be. So here's what I'm seeing happen for most people is they identify a desire. Great. You want this thing either in this lifetime, you want this kind of relationship, you want this kind of job, you want this event to happen professionally, whatever. And as soon as that desire comes to be, you introduce, but how? That is the first place that people have been trained to contemplate, is immediately go into strategy. Here's the problem with that. Energetically speaking, as soon as you have a desire, if the how is not self-evident, the energy has not matured to the point where the how even has solidified. So the answer to how is unavailable because of where you are energetically. Do you get what I'm saying? So in the conversation of provisions, one of the things that I really like to consider is that the how is a provision. It is one of the things that is provided to me along the path. And if I do not have a how, if I do not have an immediate strategy, or if I don't have an immediate move to make, then that means the energy hasn't matured yet. So there's nothing to do. Now, I know a lot of people will like want to sit and ruminate about how, and they'll think and think and think and think and think. And the problem with that is it slows you down. So in the Muggle world, it behooves you to contemplate strategy morning, noon, and night. My argument is if that does not bring you joy, then you're wasting your time, because it would serve you more to focus more on solidifying the energy so that you can be a magnet for how. How is a part of the unfolding. And I know that, once again, in the Muggle world, people are addicted to how. You like having a 10-step plan for how you're going to get here to there. However, in an energetic world and in an energetic sense, if you had all of the steps to get there, it would overwhelm you. If God rained down upon you and handed you a list of all of these different action steps for exactly what is going to occur in order for you to get that thing that you want, you would stop pursuing it. So this is why, as soon as someone starts asking me, but I don't know how, or it doesn't make sense, my immediate response is, no shit, the energy is not mature enough. It's not ready. If there was a clear how, you would already be doing it. There would be no question. If the right move and the right next step was available to you, if it was ripe for the plucking, you would already be doing it. But it's not. So that means the energetic work is the only thing that there is to do, because that is what solidifies. I'll give you an example of this. I am in the process of building a financial team for my business. Okay, so in this moment, there's 3 different people that I want to hire. And this is I would say it's a relatively new desire in terms of what I'm wanting to do, how this is compatible with my larger vision, how these people being brought into my life is a part of the provisions. Okay. And so at first, this started as me identifying that there was a character in my field energetically that felt like a fairy godmother. That's the best way. That's the best way I can explain it. She had this fairy godmother energy and she had a Southern accent. Those were the 2 things. And every time around the conversation about business, finance strategy, taxes, all of like the logistical, boring stuff that is not my zone of genius. Okay, that side of things, there was this guide that would pop up. And she would say, you don't need to worry about a thing. I've got this all taken care of. Okay, so she made an appearance just in terms of my meditation and all of that stuff. So the energy is brewing and I know she's there, but I'm not hunting down people to do this work. Okay, I'm not scouting out people. That was not the right next step. Because the how was not evident. I'm not exactly comfortable just blindly Googling or looking up people to do this really important work for me that is going to, potentially set me up for decades and decades and decades. So when I'm thinking about building a financial team and implementing structures in my business, I'm thinking in terms of legacy. I'm thinking in terms of how can I set myself up for success in my 60s and 70s. I'm not just thinking about the short term putting out a fire. I'm thinking much, much broader than that. And so I have this really clear energy of who she is. And this has been growing, like the desire has been growing, the energy has been maturing. I have had a few things that I've taken action on where the how was evident, the how came to me, and there was no resistance to it. And then today in meditation, I got this image. It was a reminder of this woman that I saw on TikTok. And I went and I looked her up because I followed her a while back. I looked her up. She is exactly like this fairy godmother character that came to me months and months and months ago. And so what I realized is that was the clue, that was the hint, that was as much energetic solidification as what I was ready for in that moment, was just getting that image, getting that character, getting that vibe, and being able to identify that. Then the energy solidified further. So now I know exactly who it is. So now I know exactly who I want to hire. I know what I want her to do for me. I know the kind of relationship that I want to build with her. Now I also have a network of other financial professionals who she has trained. So all of the things that I was previously, I could have taken, I could have burned myself out on trying to figure this out, but instead I took the energetic approach first and trusted that everything would come in proper unfolding as much as I could allow the energy to solidify. And I know that people have a really difficult time allowing the energy to solidify. But when you are trying to force things into place, you can make a lot of decisions that aren't right. And then that sets you up to clean up a lot of mistakes later, which is why I'm in favor of prioritizing energetic work so that I can avoid errors or hiring bad people that really aren't right for me or don't know what they're doing, or I don't trust them to be competent. I don't trust them to have my financial interest in mind, or to have my business, my legacy, what I'm building in mind. And hiring people from that place, taking premature action is not congruent with the full vision that I have for myself. And so allowing all of this to unfold, while it may have appeared that nothing was happening, that was not true. That was not true. I was allowing the energy, the focus, the intentionality, the vision, all of that to solidify. So it's gaining energy, gaining energy, gaining energy, gaining energy, until finally it popped in 3D. And now I know, now I have a whole network of people to choose from. Now I have the person that I want to work with. Now it's like, there will be provisions for me to make this a reality. That is just the case, because there is absolutely no way that all of this unfolded and it's not going to be provided for. This is a part of a much larger vision that I'm allowing to come together. And it's like this with everything. But people get a lot of anxiety around not having a how-to plan. And I really want to emphasize a how is part of what is provided to you in the energetic maturation process. Always, you will receive the how. The problem is that in the very early stages, when there is simply a seed of a desire that's been planted, you already want to ask how. You already want to get practical. You don't want to let the fantasy bake a little bit so that you can actually pluck the fruit when it's ripe. And so asking how prematurely is pretty much a guaranteed way to kill your dreams, for one. It's something that you can invite, but you can't force. So in terms of, okay, God, I'm ready to do this thing. I'm ready to receive the how, is very different than pouting and getting annoyed at how. If you're asking how and that question is making you frustrated, you're asking prematurely. If you're asking how, if you have a big vision and then you start asking how and it makes you upset and you're like in a poopy diaper of your own emotions, you're asking prematurely. And it's not serving you to be asking how, because you've forgotten that how is a provision. It's one of the things that will inevitably come to you. It must, in the same way that the resources, so the money, the people, the information, all of those things that are necessary in order for you to bring something to life must come. If you have a desire, it must be provided for. Your problem, 9 times out of 10, is disrupting the order of operations and not allowing energy to solidify. That is like the number one culprit of dream killers. Because as soon as you go to the 10-step process, it kills your mojo. If you look at the entire process, it's going to feel daunting. It's like the idea of, okay, I'm going to try to scale this mountain instead of just focusing on this next little stretch. And so I really think this comes back to trust in energetics, trust in the fact that energy does materialize. It will inevitably materialize. Hold on, let me tune into this next piece. There's 2 different pieces. So there's the unconditionality, as in, if I am unconditionally focused on a daydream or a fantasy or an image of something that I want, not in terms of visualization, but you get the idea, like a vision for self. Okay, that's unconditional, because I'm not, holding a gun to the 3D's head and saying, where's my stuff? Or you better give me the how right now. It's allowing yourself to understand that there's a blueprint, right? When you're thinking about the astral, a nice way to look at it that is really satisfying for our human minds to get behind is you want to treat it like a blueprint that's kind of hovering above you, even though that is not energetically accurate at all. It's just a way for you to imagine this and start to interface with it. There's a blueprint for all of the things that you want. And the more that you allow all of that to come down and you allow the solidification of all of that, the faster things speed up in 3D. I think most people's issue is addiction to circumstances. And when I'm using addiction very intentionally, because we don't really think about it this way. But if that is something you must have in order to feel or in order to emit, then you're going to struggle to be unconditional and start tapping into that astral blueprint that I'm talking about. You have to go there first. You have to vibrate with it. You have to feel congruently to that experience in order for it to solidify. If you're too caught up in what's happening in your day-to-day life, or the fact that things haven't matured to the point where you do know how or whatever, that's a total distraction. That's an indication that you've fallen out of alignment with the vision that you have. So here's another thing that recently came up, and this is another reason why I wanted to have this conversation as well, is I saw TikTok, And there was this guy on there talking about telling the most hopeless story. He was like, you're going to see this major divide in the millennial generation. And if you haven't already gotten into the housing market, just all of this doom and gloom. And this dude was a total wet blanket. It was absolutely insane to me. I was like, if you are wondering why a divide even exists, is because people continually entertain this paradigm and these thought forms. That's why. That's the culprit. Is it's an idea that many people buy into and contribute to, rather than looking at it like, there will be provisions for you. If you want to own a home, homes are available all the time. There's okay, hold on. Let me back up a second, because this is a bit more technical. So instead of thinking about Earth as a finite plane, I want you to think about it like it's more of a fluid plane. We have a lot of things that exist on Earth that, for the sake of continuity and having a more enjoyable human experience, there is that consistency with things like math and colors and language. We want consistency and continuity so that we can feel into contrast more. That's part of the deal. But in terms of reality creation, it would really serve you to think about it as Earth will reflect whatever demand I make. Okay, so if the demand is a home for me to purchase, of course, that can be provided for. There will be provisions for you. That's the whole thing. Energetically, it can and will be provided for. If you fully buy in to the paradigm, and again, I like to remind people, it's available. This option is available. If you would like to focus on doom and gloom, despair, your desires being unattainable, the boomers had it good and you have it bad, if you like that story and you want it, go for it. I will not stop you. So it's just an option. It's a paradigm that's available. It's something that you can choose for yourself, but understand that it's a choice, and understand that there are other things that are available. Now, of course, the Muggles will hate this conversation. They will not like it. Muggles love tragedy and hardship. Okay. Muggles, as in non-magical, non-mystical people, they fucking love things being hard. They love complaining. They love sitting in their emotional poopy diapers and telling stories of disempowerment. So I just like to remind everyone, you have the option of entertaining Muggle paradigms if you so choose. I just find them to be extremely disheartening. And so when it comes to contrast, I talk about this in 7 Deadly Shadows. We talk about this, I think, on day 1, the disconnection episode, where shadow and light expand at the same rate. So at the same time, they're expanding together. This is why you have there's one conversation going on about the economy, and I think it's something to the effect of, like, you may have heard this YouTube ad, by the way. It's like, did you know that there are 1,300 millionaires that come into existence every hour of this new economy? Okay, so there's like this really cheesy ad that's claiming that. And in all honesty, I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't be surprised, because wealth and poverty will expand at the same rate. So you're going to have more of the homeless encampments that you're seeing a lot of videos of online. You're going to have more of like the homelessness crisis or the extreme poverty pictures and hot spots that exist, and that, or like the cobalt mines, just horrible treatment. And then you also have like this radically expanding wealth at the same time. That tracks when it comes to universal expansion, and with the expanded rate of just the expanse when it comes to shadow and light. That's consistent. So when it comes to wealth and poverty, it's just one metric that expands at the same time. So when it comes to whether you have it good or bad, whether there be lots of opportunities or few opportunities, whether your generation is prosperous or completely fucked, all of that is just a possible paradigm. That's it. It's an optional belief. So the reason why this came up is I was like, after I saw that video of the guy, the wet blanket, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, the divide has nothing to do with you were born into the wrong generation. Fuck that noise. No. This is absurd. I refuse to be a victim of like generational divides. That's completely insane. The actual divide, and it doesn't matter what generation you're in, what beliefs you may have about whatever generation, is the thought forms that you engage with. That's where the divide is. So people who agree with that man will experience that. People who agree that there will be provisions for anything that I desire, and it doesn't matter if it's real estate, it doesn't matter if it's money, it doesn't matter if it's business, it doesn't matter if it's my love life. There's another one. What is the other narrative around marriage? Birth rates are declining. The nuclear family is dead. Okay, all of these things. Women do all of the work. Men are buffoons. There are so many horrible paradigms that people buy into. And so once again, if you're just looking at the expansion, the expansive nature of the universe, you have horrible stories are going to be available and wonderful stories are available. Because the other thing is, or the other potential paradigm that you could buy into around relationships is there's more consciousness in relationships than ever. There's more of a desire for people to do their work than ever. There's more of a desire for goodness than ever. There's more intentionality. There's more of like co-creative egalitarian relationships than ever. And that's another possibility that you could feel into. It's another story you could buy into. There is always a flip side to every single thing. So if you want something, the work that you have to do is getting your beliefs to harmonize with the desire, for them to be congruent with the desire that you have for yourself. So if it's a home, then you have to fully buy in that you will be provided for, that the resources, the people, the unfolding, the interest rate, the whatever will be provided. If you have a big vision, or you have a big projects that you want to do, then it's the people, the knowledge, the wisdom, the strategy, all of that will be provided. The how will be provided to you. And if there is not a clear how, then it's not ready. You have to hold the energy of it is done. It is solidifying. It is coming into 3D. It is happening now. If the longer you hold yourself in the, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make this a reality. I don't know. I don't know how to do this. If you stay there, you're holding your desire away from you. And this is why I describe like that shit that people do is like sitting in a poopy diaper. Knock it off. No more. No more of this. The how has to come, period. You don't need to force it. So allow yourself to just bask in the energy of the inevitable completion and the inevitability of everything that you want and need being available. Know that the universe is going to titrate the hows so that you don't get overwhelmed, that you can take it one step at a time, that there's no need to rush. And I promise you, if you're doing energetic work, things pop fast. Okay, so in the same way that I gave you the example of like me having this financial team, I have a vision for like the financial division, if you will, of my business and of my work. Of course, the first seed, the first piece of clarity energetically came to me months ago. But when it actually popped, now it's like everything is available at the same time. And I feel readier than ever. It feels like perfect timing. It feels like the perfect people. It feels like everything is right. It feels like I trust this wonderful woman with my vision. I trust that we're aligned because I've been doing the energetic work. And there was a little bit more concentration around my focus and my intentionality around the boring business stuff that I don't want to do. That is not my zone of genius, but there was a stronger desire, a more potent, yes, I want this and I want it now, that came through recently so then this could show up because there was more refinement in the energetics, not in hunting, because again, the information came to me in meditation, not scouring 25 pages on Google. Not reading Yelp reviews. The resonance in your body, this is something when people are shopping or when people are looking for houses, I advise against exhausting yourself with hunting. Like I've told many clients, I said, you do not, it's not like God is saying, well, if you had only done 5 more hours of hunting, then I would have given you the right answer, or then I would have given you the right person or home or whatever. It's not like that. It's a resonance thing. And so the same thing happened with this home. I was not house hunting. I would occasionally browse Zillow a handful of times, and it wasn't even very long. 20, 30 minutes max, I would really put into this. But I continued to trust that the resources, the right home, the perfect people, the perfect location was going to find me. It was going to make itself evident to me. And it continued to reveal itself more and more and more. I did not need to stress myself with all of the technicalities of it. So you can be softer with the technicalities and you can trust the energetics more so that you get a better composition of what's going on. So that then there's more ease and flow around the technical side, around the how, around the strategy, and it will feel, here's the other thing about this. When you are looking at it as there will be provisions for me, and anything that I'm ready for will be given to me by God, and I can trust the pace of the unfolding. And if the only thing that I do is double down on the energetic work, then I can trust that there will be, my alignment is what will bring security to the situation. So as I'm feeling into security, stability, confidence within myself, as I'm in alignment with my vision and I trust the unfolding, then that is what ensures right moves. So I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some people who would prefer to experiment with strategy, experiment with strategy, experiment with strategy until the cows come home, and then do a meta-analysis of everything, every single experiment that you've ever done, and try to extract the tiniest amount of data from all of those experiments that you ran. It's like, that is one way to do it, but I feel like that's even slower. That means you have to go through 50,000 errors. You have to sort through all of the different problems and all of the different potential things that we could do differently. And here were the flaws in the system that we had before. And there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't consider that efficient. Not when we're talking about energetics. It's like, there's plenty of ways to hammer things into submission. There's plenty of ways that you can just strategize yourself until you are blue in the face and your brain is like numbed out from all of the data. Unless data is where your heart is at and strategy is where your heart is at, a lot of the time it is fatiguing. And so my approach, and again, it's not going to be right for everyone. I always love to preface that, because I understand that I'm kind of an odd bird in my order of operations. Like, I don't think there's anyone who would advise that you don't house hunt for 6 hours, or that you don't send 2,000 job applications, because I think that the muggles will say it's a number game. Mystics will tell you it's an energetic game. And that's what this is about. But coming back to the idea of provisions, I think if you are already living in the mystical camp in any way, shape, or form, the real work is getting yourself behind the understanding that your vision is important, that your desire is God-given, that it's meant for you, that it matters. In no way, shape, or form is God dangling a carrot out in front of you. I used to think that all the time in a few areas of my life. I thought God was fucking with me. I thought that there was a carrot being dangled out in front of me, that I wasn't being provided for, that this was a sick, cruel joke. Okay. I did have that belief system for quite some time. It was horrible and it tormented me for many years. But that's not legitimate. The problem has to do with where your mind and emotions are at. So the thing is, you complicate the provisions that are meant for you, the ways in which you are meant to be provided for, the co-creation that you are experiencing with God and the universe and all of the angels that are flying around. You complicate that when you introduce shitty thoughts and limiting thoughts and feeling a certain way and making it more complicated than it needs to be. That part is on you. And so instead, if you can just allow yourself more, give yourself more permission to make a case and really come into buying into your own freaking dreams for once. Because all too often, and it's like, yeah. Thanks, mom and dad, for all of the limitations that you planted in my mind, or all of the all of the thought forms, whether that be collectively, socially, familially, it doesn't matter. But it really is about reconstructing those thoughts and ideas for yourself and just getting 100% behind why your dream is important. And it's like, okay, desire is enough. Desire is enough of a reason, but people have a really hard time getting behind that and believing that, because so many of you have been like trying to explain why you deserve because you suffered so long, and that's not relevant. Like, your suffering did not prove your worthiness, because worthiness is a bullshit metric that humans made up. It's not a relevant part of the conversation. Unless you can regularly tap into the energy of worthiness, don't bother. It's a non-player. It's not relevant. Do you want it or not? That's more important. Do you want something or not? If you want it, then you can have it. If the desire is there, then you can absolutely get yourself into the energetic place where the universe has no choice but to reflect it back to you. And there's no choice but for it to materialize. But in terms of maintenance, you have to get yourself behind the why so that you can resonate there, so that you can emit from that space. What else do I want to say about this? If you are fully congruent with the desire, then it will take the pressure that you have off of how. Because the how, you will notice that everything kind of feels like a step in the unfolding. And even when you're doing the energetic work, meaning the feeling and thinking work, the postural work, the sensation work, the visioning work, whatever, it will feel like a part of the unfolding. So now, coming back to the financial example, the people that I want to hire, I realized that the work that I was doing happened in many journaling sessions leading up to this, getting myself into a place where I was moving myself out of that instability, because there was part of me would get overwhelmed by the idea and overwhelmed by the ways in which I want to expand, and I felt shaky around it. So what I had to do, my responsibility, was to get as stable as possible and return back to the importance of why it is critical that this happens. It's important, it matters, it's contributing to a bigger vision that I have. This is a way that I want to co-create with God and the universe and all of the other participants that are at play. You know, there was me getting my energy in the game around it that happened, and then everything pops. So that is the work. So every time that I was able to stabilize my energy, that was the unfolding. Every time that I recentered myself and I planted myself in confidence and stability, that was the how. So if you're asking, how do I do this thing? Well, how stable are you energetically around this? Well, I don't know. I'm sliding around. I keep entertaining all of these doubtful thoughts. I'm like pouting and sitting in my poopy diaper. Knock it off. Get yourself back into a space of confidence so that the how can even find you. You cannot resonate in confusion and instability and helplessness and expect these clear, sharp hows to show up on your doorstep. This is why the energetic foundation must come first, so that you reduce your error rate whenever you do start taking action, so that you can allow all of the hows and you can allow all of the resources into your space, and it clears everything else up. So, final thoughts on provision. There is no desire that is more important than another. If you are aligned. So I'm not talking about if you're in a bad mood and you're wanting to seek revenge. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I am saying your sacred desires that you have for yourself. Okay, the ones that feel like they were a gift from God, this divine vision that you have for yourself, for your life, for others, whatever. Whether it's something material, it could be arguably completely selfish, but it doesn't matter because it falls within the bounds of the expansion of the universe. So even if it's purely pleasure based, it is still a part of the expansion of the universe. Now, here's the other thing that's coming to mind. Some people are afraid of materialistic desires, but what I've repeatedly reminded people is that at a certain point, if you are wanting to expand into more from a pure place, meaning it's not from this distorted competitive energy, but it is genuinely like, this is the desire of my heart, this is satisfying to me, this is fun, this is whatever, this is an expression of who I really am, because there's many elements of your lifestyle that is you in your fullest expression. And so if it's coming from that space, that's purely from the just an expansive, I'm mumbling over my words, that is just about the expansion of the universe. And what will inevitably happen is that you could have a whole bunch of things and stuff. You could have houses, you could have cars, you could have the wardrobe of your dreams. And the thing is, even if after you got all of that, if you are connected to your God-given vision, you're eventually going to want to do other stuff that is impactful. Whether you start from this like altruistic, oh, I'm of service, at a certain point your desire will flip and you will have a strong urge to serve yourself. And if you start in a selfish place that's like, yeah, I want fast cars and loads of cash. Okay, if you start there and you're aligned, eventually it will flip and you will start wanting to tap into a mission and a vision and desires that have more collective impact than just fancy things. Like that's also going to get boring. There's only so many bags that you will find satisfying. You know what I mean? So I never worry about where the starting place is, because the reality is, if you're connected, it's all serving. It's all serving the expansion of the universe. It's all serving the expansion of self, the expression of self. All of this matters. And so I am not a fan of people putting some desires in the category of being good and important, and other desires being in the category of wrong, greedy, and selfish. It's like it all contributes to a holistic picture of Earth, if you will, or a holistic experience on Earth. And so I don't find it worthwhile to split hairs over the morality of desires. And so when I'm talking about get your energy behind why it is important, that is where you really tap into your own purity. Because if it is not resonant with the highest expression of you, right? If you're already, you have a spiritual practice, you have your desires, you have a relationship with God, or whatever it is that you like to call it. I just prefer using God. When you have a relationship with that, it's like you're not going to be led astray. And you can trust that any desires that are no longer resonant with that big vision, that highly connected vision, will fall away. And you can trust that when you really are in connection, that you will be led towards the highest expression, the highest quality desires. That is the case, and that all of the things that need to occur in order for you to bring that to life will happen. There will be provisions for you. And so I don't believe that there's any way to get this wrong, because if you have distorted desires that are coming from a very misaligned place, then things just bottom out. So it's like, if your heart and mind are connected and they're in the right spot, then those are the things that you can trust. When there are things that are going to improve your life, that are enhancing your life experience, that are making you the best version of you, that are improving the quality of character that other people get to experience through your personality, through who you are, then there's nothing wrong with that desire. And you will be provided for in making it come to life. All right. That is all for today, friends. Don't forget, send this to someone if you know that they would like to hear this. I have some stuff that I will be announcing on Sunday, and there will be another podcast on Sunday, I'm sure. If you are not already signed up for my newsletter, I highly recommend that you check that out. I give a tarot reading. That is the last spot that I really do tarot, and people love my newsletter. It comes out every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and that is all for now. All right, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you later. Bye.